Alright guys, in today's video I'm going to show you the only story sequence framework you need to book calls for your coaching or info offer. I recommend using this anywhere between 2 or 3 max times a week. This video is not going to be explaining like the different methodologies and approach you would take to uploading stories every single week. Like, don't make it every single story you upload a salesy one, because people are going to be pushed away from you because they just think that you're trying to get something out of them. So you definitely want to blend this in with just like you uploading pictures or videos of your general lifestyle and sharing like personal anecdotes and that kind of stuff. But this video is specifically about this one framework that works extremely well, and you can basically just reword it in a bunch of different ways so that you can just end up using the same framework every single time and get consistently good results. All right, so let's get into it. As you can see down here, I have an actual story sequence that I've uploaded, so I'll kind of show you how it plays into the framework that I'm going to be showing you so you can see an actual example of what it should look like. So in the very beginning, the first slide is you're going to want to stop somebody from scrolling to the next one, just get their attention. Very standard, like, hook the viewer kind of thing. So I won't explain it too much, but the two main things that you need to do is get the viewer's attention by first calling out who you want to continue reading it. So usually you're going to have the same ICP for your offer, but if your ICP changes for whatever reason, or it's like a broad offer, you can target different like segments within that audience. So call them out in the first slide and or rather point out a big pain point that they have, so that they're like, okay, shit, I need to read this because this is about me. So for the first slide, you definitely want to have a picture of you with your face in it, because it'll resonate a lot more with your viewers because they followed you through your content, they know your face, and it's better than just seeing a random restaurant or like a cool view that you might have. You can use that at a later stage in the story sequence, but for the first one, you definitely want to put your face out there because it will grab people's attention. So an example of what I did was I just called out my ICP, so coaches. I said that they're doing everything right. They're posting daily, running ads, and they're still getting no leads. Here's the crazy part. So this is something else that makes story sequences really cool, is you can actually kind of, choose the slides as they go. So what I mean by that is you can have a certain amount of text up, so they have to click to read the next part of it. So, but here's the crazy part. Kind of insinuates that, like, it's like kind of like a cliffhanger in a TV show. So they want to see the next part, so they'll click and see the next slide, which is this one where I kind of explained a client result that we got, and that's kind of where you introduce slide 2, where you basically do either a reframe or you contradict something. So you have like a belief in somebody's you shift somebody's belief, and you kind of talk about how their problem isn't actually what they think it is, it's something else. So I didn't outright just say your problem isn't X, it's Y. What I did here is I listed a client result, so how we generated a $1.4 million sales pipeline for a client in 8 months, but we only use short form content. We didn't handle the sales, we just did content and lead generation, right? So what I implied by the problem was that what they're doing isn't working well, because we only use short form content, yet we were able to get this kind of sales pipeline, while the other coaches that are reading this story sequence are posting daily, running ads, and still having no leads. So they could be posting short form, they could be posting long form, but it's not an explicit like your problem isn't this, it's actually this. It's just like we're only using this, and yet we were able to get this result. So by this point, you're going to have the right kind of people that you want to read the story sequence, actually see the second slide where you kind of shift the belief that they might have, and then now you've got them invested for the rest of it. So this is kind of usually where if you don't mess up the rest of it, it's quite easy to retain the right people throughout the rest of the story sequence. So it gets a little bit easier from here. It's just these two first slides are the most important ones. As always, it's just the hook that matters, right? Like, that's what everybody says, but it's kind of true. So once you get these two down, the next slide is you want to just put some form of proof so that they actually believe what you're talking about, because this sounds great, but then if you're just kind of talking about this on theory only, it doesn't really hit as hard. So you just want to put one result, make it very clear what they're looking at. Ideally, if you can put a screenshot up, that would be really good. A lot of people like to put like actual pictures of their clients getting the result. If they're in fitness coaching, or if they're talking about sales, they'll put screenshots of like a Stripe dashboard or that kind of stuff. But that actual number, even though it could be faked, holds a lot of weight because it just looks real. So you want to be doing that as well. I'm not saying that you should fake any results. I'm just saying that you want to be using actual screenshots of things that people recognize. So people will be able to recognize a Stripe dashboard because anybody that does an online business knows what that looks like. So if you have a screenshot that looks really cool as well. So what I'm showing you, this framework is usually like across 8 slides, but it doesn't have to be every single time. Like, it's just a framework for how you should be approaching the writing and the displaying of the message that you want to get across. So this sequence that I'm showing you is actually 7, but it still gets the same message across. So don't freak out if you're like, oh yeah, it only has 7 slides. And it doesn't matter. It's okay. It's like, that's kind of why it's a framework and not just a copy paste template where you just swap out the variables. So here I put an actual screenshot of our ManyChat dashboard where you can see the date is January 1st to August 31st of this year. So full 8 months. And then I kind of just quickly break down what it was, right? Like what they're looking at, 14,000 leads, 1 lead magnet, 1 system, 1.4 million in potential revenue. Most coaches never get close. This last line was purposely designed to kind of hurt people's feelings, because by saying most coaches never get close, they're like, okay, shit, well, I'm doing all these things right. Like, let's look back to the beginning. I'm doing all these things right. I'm posting daily, running ads, and I'm still getting no leads. And by saying this, it just hurts even more, which will get them even more invested as well. So that's slide 3. And then slide 4, you kind of dig deeper into the reason why what they're doing doesn't work, or a hidden problem that they might not know that they have. So some cool lines that you could use is like, here's what nobody talks about. Having some element of like secrecy or exclusivity is always useful. So that's something that you could do. And what I did here is I just explained that we did this with massive limitations because it's true. I don't know why the resolution of this screenshot specifically is not looking so good, guys, so forgive me for that. But so what I kind of did here is I dug into the pain point even further by explaining how we did all of these results, yet all we had to work with was we clipped long form podcasts and live shows. We explained really complex topics, which technically on paper you shouldn't be able to explain peptides in just 1 minute. I mean, you could, of course, but we were able to get a lot of people interested in watching these kinds of videos from a long form podcast where these people were talking for hours about really complex topics, and we were able to condense them into shorts. We had no flexibility on hooks, obviously, because we're just repurposing videos. We didn't use any story sequences. We didn't use any custom scripts to make like short form videos that were intended to be shorts. We had no DM systems, and we did use absolutely no paid ads. So we weren't even using half of our tools, yet we were able to get this result. So this is me just pushing even further in this pain point, because a lot of people will be throwing everything at the wall. They're making shorts, they're making long form, they're making ads, they're doing story sequences, they're DMing people, they're doing all this shit, yet they're not getting any leads. And then here we are with just uploading a bunch of podcast clips, and we're just crushing it by getting thousands of leads every single month. So that was kind of what I did there. Another thing that you could do, kind of like in the framework, like I was saying, was here's what nobody talks about, and you get into the deeper reason for why everything else fails. Then in slide 5, you just want to explain your mechanism, or what you did, or what you would do differently, because in this case, we kind of explained what we did, but also what we would do differently, because like I said, we were only using half of what we could have used. And so if we were to do things differently, again, and we had more control, we would have definitely done that. So you can just steal, by the way, guys, these lines in these yellow boxes. You could just take them word for word if you wanted, but this is kind of just to give you an idea of the message that you want to get across, right? So you don't have to say we use system step 1, step 2, step 3. You could just say like our system includes, and then do it. Like, just kind of use your brain and you can get to the point. But the key with this is you don't want to use too much like technical term and jargon, because you'll just lose people. There's no need for you to flex that you can say big words and spell big words out. Like, that's not necessary. So just keep it really simple so that people can understand. And using analogies works extremely well too. I took like a little 30-second break to actually re-import these photos, because the rest of these slides were all ugly and pixelated. So I just fixed that really quick. But what I was getting at is, for slide 5, you just want to kind of reveal your framework and kind of just talk about what you did. So in this case is just a little bullet pointed explanation of what we did that actually made it work, right? Given all the limitations we had to find a way to make it work, and this is exactly what we did. So we started to use hooks on the videos, like just text titles that would push the wrong people away and to get the right people to stay. And then we used one lead magnet that we found that worked extremely well. Of course, credit again goes to our client's team for creating this lead magnet. It was fucking fantastic, and everybody wanted it. It makes so much sense. Like, this is just a side note, but if you can find one lead magnet which everybody in your industry wants, it's like a beginner pack, let's say, use it and just pump it, because it was actually crazy. Then the other thing we did was we outcompeted everybody on volume, because we had lots of long podcasts to work from. So we had tons of clips coming every single week. And so what we did is, instead of being modest and posting like once a day, we were posting 2 to 5 clips a day, but we averaged out to about 2 a day. But there were periods of time where we were just blasting so many videos every single day. Fortunately, our client was making videos from anecdotes. So whether it was his own anecdote or people that he's helped, it made it a lot easier for people to watch because it didn't feel preachy. And then we also used collab posts with guests for extra reach. So every time someone that wasn't usually on the podcast, like not one of the hosts, was there, we would do a collab post with them for the clips so that we could access their audience as well. And this definitely helped spread the message and do all that kind of stuff. So slide 6 is where you explain why it works. So you would basically just back up what you're saying and explain it in terms of like, of course this works because XYZ. Just make it seem almost trivial, like why what you did actually works. So a line you could use is, it works because people do X and your system does Y, then you're going to get this result. So you can just kind of explain like your system just does something a little bit differently. Again, both like with slides 5 and 6, and I guess this could apply to the entire sequence, is try to avoid using big, unnecessarily big and complicated words. You can use them and it can work, and of course there's nuance to everything. Your audience could be more sophisticated than other people depending on the offer that you're running, but generally you don't want to lose people over some stupid mistake, like you used a big word that kind of confuses people and then you don't get your message across. Like that would be the most frustrating thing, because you are actually smart and you do deserve to get results, but you're losing people because you're trying too hard in that sense. So here I kind of just explained very simply why it worked. It's almost trivial. It actually just, like, it was funny when I was writing the sequence. I was like, yeah, of course, this is the 2 main reasons why it works. Lead magnet slapped and we outposted every competitor. Like I said, volume was out of control. The lead magnet was something that we knew people absolutely wanted, and it's something that I'm grateful that we were able to work on this, because we learned something really important about lead magnets and having a centralized lead magnet. Because if you can make one that everybody wants and is evergreen, because this lead magnet that our client is using is still valid today, they're just updating like the information in there, even because there are like opinions on like certain things in there are changing, but you could literally, he will probably be using this for the rest of like eternity. Like it's just the most OP lead magnet ever. And so I think that anybody who can find that kind of the equivalent for their niche or for their offer would be very lucky if they're able to do that. Then just a couple lines to explain, you know, again, more about why it worked. Like volume always wins over time, and if you combine demand and volume, your I sub V eventually collides with you. So here's actually like a personal critique. I guess I could have used like eventually collides with you as a little bit like wishy-washy in a way. Like I could have just been like, you know, if you combine demand and volume, your ICP will inevitably find you. Inevitably could also be too big of a word. Like you don't want to overthink it, but at the same time, it's just like your ICP will always find you. That's something that you could say. Then again, so you don't have to be too nitpicky, but just try to keep your vocabulary reeled in, I guess. Slide 7, future pacing. So this is kind of where you explain what the change will bring in the future. This is optional, so it depends kind of what your offer is doing. So if, for example, you're a fitness coach and you share somebody's transformation, you can talk about like, you know, my client did this 90-day challenge and they're doing all this, they lost all this weight, and now their future is going to look like easy gym routine because they built the habit. They have all the knowledge they need for eating, so it's no longer hard. They've managed to control their intrusive thoughts on their binge eating habits from the past. Like these kinds of things, you can talk about what the future would look like, so that it's like you took the viewer of the story sequence from, this is me, I have this pain point, this person is able to change this other person through this. They explained why it works. Of course it works, it's so trivial. And then now they're seeing, oh, this is what my life is going to look like after I go through this change or after I work with this person. So that's kind of what this slide is for. Not necessary. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, I didn't use this slide in my story sequence because I guess I didn't want to. I don't really remember. This is a week or two old, but that's the purpose of this slide. Unfortunately, I don't have a practical example to show you in this video for it, but you just kind of want to talk about what things will look like afterwards. So it's very easy. You can kind of just say like, you know, now his life looks like this. His wife is super happy. He's healthier. He gets to spend more time with his kids. Of course, this is revolving around a fitness, like health-related offer, but you can just talk about what life is like after somebody is able to work with you through your certain period of time. So 90 days is just a generic number. It doesn't have to be that number. And then, of course, guys, slide 8, CTA. This is very simple, very straightforward. Don't want to overthink it. Just, again, say the exact action that you want somebody to do and tell them what they're going to get out of it. Because if you kind of just make it like ambiguous and you give them too many steps, it's like swipe up and do this and do that. Like people are just going to get lost. One instruction, one outcome. That's all you need. Make it very clear. So like I said here, I just added one last section where I removed this section and added this. It's just if you want the system that fills your pipeline, warms your audience and prints leads, reply 1M and I'll send you the full breakdown. So that's a full long form video that's on my channel. You might have seen it, I don't know. where I basically break down the entire strategy which we used to get this result for our client. So that's the CTA. This is something as well which I don't see too many people talk about. You can purposely make these story sequences without CTA, almost to build like FOMO for the people who are seeing things. Because if you're just talking about this, like you're just like client result here, client result there, of course it works because we did XYZ, boom, boom, boom. People are getting like excited, they see this stuff and they're like, shit, okay, this is cool, this is cool. And they kind of skip to the end almost to see the story sequence. So it's like hoping that you're launching an offer or you're doing a discount or something. But if you don't leave it there, it almost like burns and it like festers inside of them. So the next time you launch another story sequence, whether it's a week or two later, or that even a few days later, people might be like more willing to jump on that because they just saw one where you really hit them hard where it hurts. And then they are like, okay, now he's actually open to taking some slots or whatever your final CTA says. That's where you can really get a lot of people too. So this is also another way for you to not feel too salesy. If you feel a little bit like you don't want to be too salesy on Instagram, it's kind of a weird limiting belief. Everybody has their own outlook to it. So just play it by ear. If you don't want to be too salesy, don't put a CTA at the end of every story sequence. But at the same time, if you do a soft CTA like this one, where I just sent them a long form, it doesn't feel salesy at all. It would feel a little bit more transactional if I were to say, swipe up 1M and let's work together, because that one is obviously like a direct CTA to work together. But you know, you get the point. All right, guys, so over here, I'm going to go through what the viewer should be thinking about every single like slide they see throughout this one story sequence framework. I know I kind of got carried away and I explained more or less everything else that I want to explain in the rest of this video, all in that first section. So I'm just going to fly through this so you can get a quick overview and understanding of what it should look like for the viewer when they're reading this. But slide 1 is basically just get them to think that's me, right? That's very straightforward. Then slide 2, you talk about how what they think their problem is not the actual problem that they're facing. So this is when you get them really invested in the story of, you know, what is actually going on. Then you want to switch to slide 3, where you just reframe it with proof and just talk about how, you know, this is the result that you got and the problem was actually this, not what the client actually thought. Slide 4, you make them think, oh, that's why nothing is working. 5, you show the structured solution. 6, you make your system feel inevitable by just saying like, of course, it's obvious this is why it works. 7, you make them want the outcome by showing what their life would look like at the very end. And then 8, make it very brain dead easy what they need to do. This is the exact next step. Swipe up this word or click this link or send me this emoji, whatever it may be. Just make it very, very simple that even a 10-year-old could do it if they wanted. Now I'm going to quickly show you how you can front load this work and batch create these story sequences. So this is something that I did in the beginning to make my highlights, and then I got really busy, so I kind of just fire out these story sequences as I go, which is why you can probably tell this is done in the Instagram editor. There's no actual like yes or no whether you should use it. It kind of just depends on what you prefer. If you prefer like, you know, just doing it on your phone on the go, that's fine. Or if you want to batch create it, this is the process that I used in the past and that I'm going to start using more. So the way it kind of looks is you just want to have your copy for all the different slides. I just put it in my notes app before I put it into Canva, which you'll see in just a second. So this is just slides 1 through 6, but the screenshot was going to be too long if I added everything. Then I kind of just in my head map out, or I just list a couple bullet points like the visual direction I want to talk about. So I, by the way, already have a folder of like my photos of myself doing things and that kind of stuff. So it's very easy for me to access it, as well as photos of things that I've been doing. So if I'm traveling, like I'll have cool pictures of places I've been, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. And then I have also another folder for all the screenshots of the proof that I'm going to be putting in the actual story sequence as well. So this little database is very useful. And then you start putting all the assets together. Like I said, if you want to batch create, it's probably easiest. You can do that in Canva. Just put everything on. I like to put everything on just one giant folder, one giant file. And then you can separate the ideas or the dates by just creating a blank page and putting the date, that kind of stuff. Save it to your phone and upload it on the day of. You could, if you wanted, and I know some people do this. I haven't really experimented with this, and knowing myself, I'm probably going to accidentally upload things the wrong way and I'm going to get confused. But you could actually upload these story sequences on like Instagram and save it as a draft, so that all you need to do is actually just click post on all of these things. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I just like to make a folder on my iPhone and then I just find the right one and upload it that way. But to each their own. Just wanted to let you guys know that option is there. And then last thing before I wrap up this video is, like I said, I didn't explain kind of like the entire story approach that you should take. So maybe posting like 20-30% lifestyle and not 100% story frame sequences and stuff like that. Like this video was literally just about the one framework that you should use, and you can recycle it and use it in a ton of different ways. But this is just a couple best practices that you want to use every single time you're uploading a story sequence. So first thing is you want to do is you want to upload the first slide of your story sequence to your close friends always. So in your close friends, if you didn't know this already, your close friends go to the front of people's feed, so you're more likely to see it. So what you do is you find like the highest quality followers that you have, add them to your close friends so that they're more likely to see it. So you upload the first slide just twice. So your regular followers don't see it twice, but the close friends people do. Most of the time, they'll never complain. They probably won't even realize, but the idea is to just get their attention because they're the people you want to see the sequence most. Then don't, obviously this is kind of straightforward, but don't interrupt your sequence with another random story. Like if you're in the process of uploading a story sequence, don't put a picture of your food unless it's relevant to the story sequence. And then keep it really easy to read. Don't make people sit there and zoom. Nobody wants to read an entire book on their phone. Just make it like very quick, easy to read. Bullet points are really nice because they're very easy to read, very ADHD and fast, so people can get to the point faster. So those are just some quick best practices as well. Forgot to mention, add your face, use your face in there. If you do an entire sequence with just like stuff, views, restaurants, gym, it won't hit as hard as if you have your face in it. Face is important for especially the beginning and the end. It's not super necessary throughout the middle, but if you can somehow layer it, like the fact that you're there is also really important, or your actual client, if that's the context of your offer and your story sequence. Then when it comes to actually tracking things, these are the two main metrics that you want to track. Obviously engagement, that's very straightforward. Just see how many people are liking it, swiping up, and you can see which slide they're interacting with most to get you an idea of what's working. But the story drop-off rate is probably the most important thing. So I don't have the data on this because I'm in the process of building out an entire tracking sheet that works with Meta API so that I can see all of the data that's happening within my Instagram account and my business partners account, where it comes to like all the ads we're running, all the organic we're posting, all the story sequences, the DMs coming in and all that kind of stuff, and then having it like on a custom dashboard. But that's all in the process of being built out. So I don't have all that stuff ready to show you guys. But in the case of story drop-off rate, what you really want to see is just finding the change between how many people are seeing each slide. So how many people are just like swiping on to the next one or closing because they're getting bored. And this will help you identify which slide in your framework is not appealing. So maybe it's like your slide 3 always tends to have the most drop off. That probably means that, you know, the proof isn't compelling enough. So people aren't actually like interested to read more, or they think it's BS or whatever it is. But you can typically find where your stories are suffering the most because you will be able to see the difference between each slide. So this is, like I said, just a quick example from 2 stories that I had up yesterday. I was traveling, so one picture of me in the plane and then one picture of me when I arrived in Bangkok. And what I have here is you can see that 145 people saw the first slide and 124 saw the second one. So technically, I dropped off almost 15% of my viewers. The main caveat here is there are two things. If you're uploading a story sequence that has like 45 different slides, your drop-off rate from the beginning to the end is going to be massive because nobody's going to sit there and read 45 slides straight up because they don't have the patience for that. So that's why I like to keep it to 8 to 10 max. And then the second thing is the time difference between each like slide. So in my tracker, it's going to just update it once everything is done, because what you can't see here, but the truth is between these 2 slides is probably like a 5-hour difference. So obviously there's going to be less viewers here because it's been up for 5 hours less. So the best way to get an accurate representation of this would be to get the numbers once the stories expire. So that's what it would look like. Those are the 2 main things. But once you can track this, it becomes actually really easy for you to maximize the outputs that you get, the results that you get from your story sequences, because you're able to see where people are dropping off. And then, like I said before, if you just tie it back to the framework, you're going to be able to understand exactly where you need to be able to dig harder or to try to just switch some things up. Maybe this framework won't work so well in 3 months from now. I don't know. This works really well for me now, so I wanted to share it with you guys, but you can obviously like switch it up. If people are like falling off here, nobody cares about the why it works slide, so you can try maybe just removing it. I don't know. It depends on how things work for you and your offer, which is why, like I said, I provided you a framework, not a script. But yeah, anyways, guys, that's the end of this video. It's kind of a long-winded one, but I think that this is very useful for you guys to use if you are looking to get more people into your coaching or info offer using story sequences, because you should. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. And if you are interested in working with me one-on-one, then make sure to use the first link in the description to book a free consultation call with me where we'll go over what you're currently doing, what you're currently going wrong, and I'll provide you a roadmap of how you could be fixing things so that things will look better in the next 3 to 6 months. But yeah, anyways, thanks again for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next one.